بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Um, السلام عليكم جميعا. We can say good evening, good night, whatever you are. Hope everyone of you are stay home, stay safe, and everything will be okay soon, inshallah. By the way, this is Asma Ibrahim. Today I will talk with you about design thinking and design thinking, especially for AI based application. I will try to make this session to the point as much as I can. I'm not in the distribution market and too much information about this. You can find it at Twitter at Ibrahim101 or you can find it in LinkedIn at Ibrahim. So to save your time, so let's start. Um, Agenda today, I will talk about what I'm talking about the key terminologies. What is AI application? What's AI? What's machine learning? I'm sure that you heard about this terminology in the previous days, but I will make it short as much as I can. We will talk about design thinking, oh, AI application life cycle, how I can have a good prototype and how design thinking could help me to have something like this, and why we need design thinking to be honest. And I will give you an example of design thinking. Could you please confirm, Abdurrahman, if this okay? Mm, mm, mm. Okay. Let me present it better now. Please, Abdurrahman, confirm if the voice is okay. I didn't hear anything from Abdurrahman. A little bit better. Sorry for this. Okay. I will just repeat what I have mentioned about our agenda today. As I mentioned, I will talk about the key terminologies, what is AI application, life cycle, how to have a quick prototype using design thinking, why we need design thinking actually, and I will give you like an design sprint, like a design sprint plan. It's about artificial intelligence, AI. I'm sure that you have heard a lot about AI, machine learning keywords, and so on. So, from my perspective, and after a lot of research I have done the previous years, and I have already worked with this type of application, AI is like software or a computer system that imitates the human capability. So, when we talk about human capability, what I have brain to do what? To do learning, to do planning, to do problem solving, and so on. But I have eyes, so this eye, so I can see objects, this objects, and so on. And this was called image recognition. I can talk, so you need a software or a application to talk like a human, and this was called natural language processing. So the key term and umbrella of artificial intelligence is machine learning, and machine learning is the science of allowing computer to learn, to act like human, and so on. When we talk about in natural language processing, it's another subfield of language and computer science that allow machine to interact like a human. I mean here in human language. And definitely when we talk about computer vision, here we talk about seeing an object, allowing the software or the computer system to see, identify, and process images in this under the umbrella of AI. Moving to AI application lifecycle, I'm not sure if you have seen. Um, just Abdurrahman mentioned something to me. Try to disable audio processing. Let me try to have sorry. Mm. Sorry for postponing this, but I'm trying to take Abdurrahman advice. It's existing audio. So I am. Okay. I don't know what will do, but it's okay. If this useful, much better. Thank you, Abdurrahman. Back to the presentation. Okay, AI application lifecycle. I'm not sure if you have seen something like this, but I'm sure that you heard about the machine learning application pipeline, starting from identifying the business problem and having a data, and end up with a model. This model is productized and up and running in production. So let's go through this life cycle quickly. First phase is called design. And design here, we are talking about articulating the business problem, defining the data sources to solve this business problem, defining the KPI, success criteria, when I should say that this model uh, has been successfully achieving the value from it or the business value from it or not. And this session, like a brainstorming and this stuff is happening during this phase. And actually, this phase is very important. It's actually directed the other phases. Moving to other phase, and quickly, it's about data discovery, data preparation, understanding your data, how you will transfer the data from the data sources to the environment that you will do data cleansing, normalization, transformation, and so on. Then what's called training the model, validating the model, and so on, model selection and testing the model, and so on. And the fourth phase, it's deploying and operationalizing the model. And here we're talking about model integration with your application. End up with a monitoring phase of this model and do optimization. It's like an iterative life cycle. It's not one way. So it's non-linear process, to be honest. And when we say AI application, it's not about having a model. You can see now a lot of people do model development, but how many models have been moved to production? How many models providing an application to the user? It's not about anymore building models. It's about productizing this model, operationalizing this model, using this model inside an application. And this application could be chatbot, a smart chatbot. It could be user interface. It could be, here I'm talking about fancy user interface, to be honest, front end one. It could be dashboard. It could be a virtual reality application. Whatever the front end, you need an application. It's not just, hey, I'm using machine learning. Okay, good. So I'm a user. I want to feel the value that came from this application. I need to use an application, whatever it's called, AI, it's called machine learning. I wanted to see the value from this application, to be honest, as a user. So to do this, definitely you have some items out, or you need actually pillars, specific pillars, or at least this pillar to achieve what's called AI application development and deployment. You need people. So people like the delivery team, you need tools. Definitely, you need the technologies that I have mentioned before, machine learning, NLP, computer vision, and so on. And you need processes. And today I will give focus to the processes because the design thinking is linked with this item. But quickly, people, as I mentioned, could be delivery team, business analysts, data scientists, machine learning, developers. It's like a personas. And definitely, I need the business expert guy who will give me the business. Um, will give me the problem. So I need this person. I need tools where I will develop and implement my application. Is I will use cloud-based software or on-premise software. What's the APIs, framework, tools, and so on. Technology, as I mentioned, it has been already proved. It's not about proving machine learning in a BCV computer vision anymore. It's about using this technology inside an application. And the fourth one is processes, and this is what I'm going to give a focus on this one today. I'm sure that you heard about Agile, Lean, Six Sigma, and recently you will find that design thinking is much linked now with the artificial intelligence application, and we will know why. definitely, if I'm going to build an AI application or a quick application, definitely I need an agile more than waterfall. This doesn't mean that agile is the only solution that I can use, but it's the best solution. So let's give like a quick value came from every process that I have mentioned. Design thinking, it's about exploring the business problem. So when we talk about design thinking, I'm talking about defining the business problem. But lean, it's like building the right things. Oh, okay, but in agile, we need to build the thing right. If you can see this graph, it have been provided by Gartner. You will see that they mention design thinking. It's about customer problem. It's giving a focus about the customer problem. But lean and agile, it's giving a focus to the customer solution, which means that the first phase, which is called design thinking, is really very important because you can invest a lot of time and effort to build something which is really not need not needed by the customer, or might be he or she didn't like it. Because when we talk about AI application, we talk about cosmetics, not you need to provide something fancy. So you need to understand your customer very well to understand the customer problem, even if you are going to satisfy customer need or you build the new need for your customer. Just try to keep checking my mobile because my might be Abdurrahman sending me something useful because I cannot see myself. Sorry for that. So when we talk about design thinking here, I will switch more from talking about AI. I will switch talking about um, design thinking. So, but this like a sentence is given by Google. Design thinking is putting people first. Yeah, it's about people. It's a human centric. So, what is design thinking? Design thinking is a process. It's a way of thinking, of a way of problem solving. How you can solve the problem in an innovative way, human centric approach. So you need to start to take an action and you need to understand the right question. So you can deliver something useful to your customer if you understand your customer well. So moving to other aspects, so what are the main pillars of design thinking from Google perspective? They mention that the empathy. You need to be empathetic. You need to understand the needs of the customer or what you are going to design. So because in AI we have two sides. Sometimes you try to generate a new need, and sometimes you try to satisfy a customer need. In AI, not all the time the customer is knowing what he or she wants. Most of the time they came with the data and they ask, and this is in real situation to be honest, they ask us, come on, I wanted to apply machine learning on top of this data. Okay, so you need to understand what the customer current situation as is, the as is process, and all of this stuff to understand the need that came from this data. So you need to be empathetic as much as you can with your customer. Then you start to ideate. This is the second pillar of having design methodology or approach. It's about ideation, how you can brainstorm with your customer, having all the persona at the same time and in the same table to brainstorm, to generate new ideas and so on. And you need to reframe this idea. And the third pillar, which is very important, about experimentation. You have your customer at the same table, and you have the delivery team, whatever the persona that will participate in this session, kind of session. So we need to put them together. So your customer, your delivery team will do what's called prototyping. Then your customer start to test this prototype and so on. So having all the persona at the same in the same time at the same table will help you, yeah, to deliver some kind of a mapped solution, a prototype, or something like that. Okay, so if design thinking is like a process, so we have a process to apply design thinking. To be honest, even in your life, you can use this approach. There is a lot of books are talking about design thinking. I will give you like an example of them after the session, inshallah. But let me return back to this slide. It's about design thinking process. Design thinking process start with empathy. As I mentioned, being empathetic, you need to understand the human need. You need to very well understand the human needs so you can identify the problem very well. Whatever it came, you will put it during the design session. Then after this, you need to define which problem is the most important problem to the customer. So you need to what's called to do reframing and defining the problem. What else? The third phase is ideating. Cool. So you do ideation. So you need, yeah, you have understood the business or the problem of the customer. You start to prioritize these problems. Okay, so you need to start ideation and giving many ideas to solve this problem or providing a solution. And this is what is called ideation session. There's a lot of artifacts and a methodology under the umbrella of design thinking to achieve this. Fourth one, it is prototyping. Prototyping, it's about okay, so yeah, we have understand, we have framed, reframed, you have ideas. So, but I need to transfer this to prototype. The prototype, it could be modeled on top of a sample data. It could be like a mockup. It could be sketch in like in a paper like A4. So you will sketch it and draw how the application should look like from the user interface. If you give a focus for a fancy application, so you are giving focus to in the UI first of all. Then you need to test it. So you need to have like a user interview. This is with the customer, and you will test this application. And this is what's called testing, not the application, sorry. You need to test the prototype or the solution of the problem. But let me, before moving to this slide, this process is not one-time process, and it's not necessary to do all of the stages of the process. It depends on why you need design thinking. Sometimes you need design thinking only for brainstorming, for ideation. That's it, or for providing prototyping, or just for defining the business problem. So you run the activities that relate to the phase that you need. It's not necessary to run all stages. And this will return us to a very important point that design thinking process is non-linear process. I will give you an example. You can start, yeah, and this happening actually, it's happening in reality. You will start with define the business problem. You will be very empathetic with your customer, and you will define the business problem. You are articulated, and you will start to reframe it, and you will have ideation session with them to have, and your team definitely to have a solution of for this problem, and end up with a prototype and validating this prototype with a customer. And might be in the phase of ideation in prototype, you think, no, this is not the right idea that I pick up from ideation, so prototype is not working, I need to return back to ideation, for example. Or when you reach the test phase, you found that after testing, the backup idea wasn't the right one to select for like a solution for this problem. Or even you can return back to identifying the problem again, or return back to the understanding phase to define the problem from the beginning. We might didn't understand the customer very well. So it's a non-linear process. Okay, so what's the relationship between what I have mentioned in the design thinking non-linear process and AI application lifecycle? Here, as I mentioned, in AI application lifecycle, that the design phase is very important because this one is driving the other phases of the pipeline. So you need to define the business problem. You need to have a good prototype. And to be honest, let me give you an example. And this happening for the companies or for the startup is who is starting to build the AI application. They are stuck in the timeline, and that the AI application development takes long time, to be honest. So how I can do balance between developing something really useful and restrict to a time or showing the customer something. So this can be done through design thinking during this design phase. You need to provide the prototype to your customer. You need to provide the solution. give them all the sample instead of running the full stages of the AI application lifecycle. And this will definitely might take months, years to achieve it. But for the design sprint, you can take weeks or even months to provide a prototype to your customer. And to be honest, when your customer is not convinced about machine learning, but yeah, let's try to use machine learning, or let's try to have some NLP-based application, you will struggle with them to convince them. So they cannot even stay till the last phase to see a value. So you need to give them like a prototype or a sample of how the product should would be look like. This is what's called the design phase. And today I will give a focus how to run design sprint for design phase and articulating the business problem. And this doesn't mean that I cannot apply design sprint for the other phases. No, I can. I can run design sprint for data exploratory or even for development and so on. It depends on the scope that you will pick up for your design sprint. From here, I can answer why design thinking. From my practical experience regarding running design sprints and so on, you can actually do a rapid prototyping using running design sprint. You can solve the problem effectively, and you can start to understand and answer lots of questions like how do we better understand our user? How do we deliver breakthrough solution that fulfill our users' needs? I'm not sure if you have seen the Uber application interface. If you have used it in US and you have used it in Dubai or Egypt, you will find a different user or feature. Okay, so it's about fulfilling a customer need, because the customer in Egypt is different, totally different from the customer in US and totally different from the customer in whatever the location like Dubai and so on. So it's how smart the company or the startup or the organization to understand their customers, start to give what they need actually. So, okay, all of this is nice if you got what I mean during the previous slides, but how I can start? I'm still checking my mobile to to see if Abdurrahman sent me something. Sorry for this. How I can start as a startup, as a small company, as a big organization, even how I can start. Okay, this is good, but let's see. To run your design sprint, you need to assess the current processes, the current personas that you have, the use tools and frameworks and so on. You need to assess this very well. Do you have this capability? Yeah, what do you mean current processes? Because why we run design sprint, as I mentioned before, yeah, might be I'm a startup and I have a small actually team and we only have one data scientist and one machine learning engineer and we want to start to build our first AI application. So, okay, how we can do this with the current resources? Yeah, it's really tough to have limited resources to achieve something like a fancy application like AI-based application. So you need to assess what you have. I try to use what you have, and actually design thinking will help you to have even a quick prototype. Okay, let's define. After this, you need to define and prioritize what you will start with. Okay, yeah, I'm assessing. I'm a small company. I wanted to start to build a fancy AI application. Nice, but how? I have only one data scientist and one machine learning engineer. Really, really, really tough. And I have a customer need something quickly. So you can give them like a quick prototype. As I mentioned, it could be a sketch in a paper. Okay, nice. After this, you need to set a sprint scope, define your scope, define what are the expected outcomes. Then you can pick up a framework. I will show some from framework like Mural and Neurova, all of this to run a design sprint. And definitely have a good coach and facilitator. You can hire me if you want. After this, you need to set your KPIs. KPIs, yeah, because you can do a good plan, but how you can measure that the design sprint give a value. So you need to have an outcome and set KPIs to measure this outcome. So you can end up with a backlog of insightful ideas. So you can run design sprint just to do brainstorming to understand the business need now to pick up or to start. Yeah, you have this use case is really useful for our customer. Or you can have model success criteria that you need to set it with your customer, so you can run a design sprint to achieve this. Or you can have a functional prototype, and this map is mapped with the example that I have mentioned at the beginning. You can learn and key insights, and this happening actually inside the big organization when they start with AI. Yeah, it's applied machinery. Good. How? We do not have the team. At least we need to understand actually the business opportunity inside the organization because we have data, but we have data. Is it enough? Data is good, but the insight is the main purpose of this data. So then you will run your first design sprint. It could be the first and second, and so on. It depends. Okay, you have mentioned like I have mentioned like a plan. Okay, what is the framework now that exists in the market that will help you to run design sprint? You will find a fancy or a group of of tools. Let me show like an example with you. You will find design thinking. If you can see my screen, you will see like a enterprise design thinking framework that's proposed with IBM, and they have like their standards, which is good. You can use it. There there are specific terms in top of this framework, and your facilitator or coach definitely is responsible for recommending which one is useful with your scope or your design sprint. And there is another one with Google. You will find line for AI, running a design sprint for AI application. Recently, they have done good things, to be honest. A Facent, something like called Facent, and this you can test your model. You can upload your data set. Actually, start to visualize this. And this is the customer. This is what the customer might need. They wanted to see. Sorry, they wanted to see like a dashboard, like a prototype. So the dashboard visual the prototype. So we can just upload this data set via this tool, and you will start visualize it based on the feature that have been defined with your customer. And when I mention features, I mention the main attribute of the data at the main column, and this business based on the business objective of this use case or of this business problem. You will find like a fancy, I like it to be honest, not because it's coming from Google, but I like it because it's a really nice one. You will find what's called what if tool for a Spain. It's another one, and it's really related to the model. So you can check them. I put all of this link through the inside the presentation itself. And there is another framework that came from what's called AG and Smart. If you just write this name, you will find an awesome channel exists in YouTube, and they have a good book called Sprint, and they bought like some activities that are related to a design sprint. So you will find an activity related to brainstorming. When we run a brainstorming session, what are the activity that I need? So you will find something like, okay, I don't like only to brainstorm and identify the business problem. I need to have a prototype. So there, what is called defining the long term. So let me go through this framework because I don't have the luxury of time to go deep dive in this, but let me give like 5 minutes for this framework because I'm actually because I have applied in different sprint. It was really successful one. How you start in this? Let me rephrase the example in another way. For example, I have use case I wanted to build on top of a model that do what's called optimization on top of my data. Okay, nice. How I can start. Now I define the business scope. You will start to set what's called long-term goals. I'm not sure if you can see my paper. You will find long-term goals, sprint question, and what's called persona. So I know it will not appear right correctly or in a good way in me go through the boards. So the facilitators start to prepare allocations, suitable rooms. This is really very important to have a suitable room and the right persona. And when I'm talking about the right persona, it might be one data scientist, and the customer and project manager. That's it. It depends on your capability. And start what is called set long-term goal. You need to define what is the long-term goal of this product. So I wanted to build an optimization product that is reusable and scalable within 2 years. This is my long-term goal. Then, and this is a really optimistic one. When we talk about sprint question activities, you talk about being a little bit mm, negative, if I can say it in this way, positive thinking. So what is preventing us from achieving this long-term goal? Like likewise, can I hire data scientists to have this implementation? Can I have this tool? Can I have end-to-end architecture? But you need to train your team to think, oh yeah, about the negative, but by providing a solution, not just saying we do not have a data scientist, but saying no, can you do this and so on. You have already what is called a map. You need to long-term goal with a persona. So I have a new customer. This customer wanted to have an optimization product. So this customer will reach this product. He will or she will access our application via App Store. They will download it. They will use it, and so on. So we need to map the long-term goal very well. And the team start to ideate how we can achieve this. After this, they will start to sketch about the different ideas. To be honest, I didn't deep dive in every one, um, because we do not have. I'm sorry for this. We do not have this enough time to do this exercise, but you will end up with having, as I mentioned, the right persona here and long-term goal in this side. And in between, it's like a journey, a user journey, how the user will access this goal as a product, by the way. After this, the team will propose different ideas, and this is what's called heat map. And during every activity, there is what's called voting. You vote which idea is better, and you will do use so on. I will check my again if I see Abdurrahman send me something or not. No, I'm safe. Thank you. So moving, this is like an example of how the sketch is like a prototype of the application. I know that the photos is not that big, so you cannot see it, but it's okay. You will have an access on this board after the session. Just like a plan of prototype. Uh, and as I mentioned, the prototype, we have different methods to do this via design thinking. And with user interviews to test the prototype, whatever the prototype. It could be a demo video recorded, it could be a sketch, it could be a mock-up, whatever the agreed prototype that will be delivered to the customer. This really will time before reworking or going to the delivery step. After this, you need, of course, to do a follow-up plan, sharing the results, surveying your participant. As you see, I have what's called preparation phase, emphasize phase, and we define, ideate, prototype, validate, and test. Is it mandatory to have all of these days, like 5 days to run design sprint? No, it is not. It depends. You can actually run your design sprint in 2 days. Even you can run one design sprint through 2 hours. It depends on the number of activity and the scope. What's the outcome and what do you want to achieve from this design sprint? If I need only a design sprint to do a brainstorming using of the design thinking, I might need only 2 hours, not 2 days, not 5 days. So you actually during the plan return back to the presentation. This is I have picked AG and Smart in the Trello board that I have shown to you. Let us like summarize what I have mentioned and link again between AI and design thinking. Design thinking could realign the technology with innovation, definitely, because in the design phase you start to focus in providing fancy features application fence, and just like a struggle we have when we start with machine learning, we focus on the data. It's not only about data. It's not only about building a model. It's actually about delivering something mapped with the customer or expectation. Definitely, it's about interfunctional team, impress the interfunctional team, and actually design thinking sessions help the team to under. One of the designs, um, the team mentioned it seemed that it's the first time to understand everyone way of thinking. And one of the things they mentioned, oh yeah, I'm not the only one who is thinking in this way. I'm not the only one who has this problem. So it's like knowing each other, but in a better way, in an empathetic way, to be honest. In enterprise, we need to legalize our development, especially in enterprise, as I mentioned. You need to map with smart technologies. Talk about AI applications, like fancy application, and we are treating our team in a boring way. Is not agile. When we run sprint, and even here, we didn't run a retrospective meeting in a proper way. So design thinking could be embedded while you are running design sprint. You need to focus on customer outcome, not results. Outcome, we say outcome because it deliver what the customer need. Even if you are going to generate a new need or satisfy a customer need. When I can run design sprint, you can run design sprint if you are a small startup and you have a new idea and want to start to kick off and do what's called testing and go. And I remember one of the video when I have, they start to interviewing people about the prototype of a product, and then they discover the product that has been developed is really not mapped with the customer expectation. So this sort of way or methodology, I mean design thinking, will help to fix something like this. You can use it for hardware project, for application design, for even business model validation, NGO innovative projects, or even for sales project, because it's a methodology, it's a way of problem solving. It's not something technical, and more much of this actually. An example of design sprint I have given to you. So some design artifact that we are talking about it, I will keep checking. Might be Abdurrahman sending something to me. No, thank you. So we have what's called stakeholder map, we have empathy map, we have scenario map, story map, wireframe, technical prototype, feedback grid, and prioritization grid. I know every item of this will require like 14 minutes to discuss it and see the value. I'm just sharing with you sample of the artifact that we are running during the design sprint. It's not necessary to know about it during the session, but at least I give you like a title and you can go and do some search about stakeholder map, why I use it, what is the embassy map, when I can use it. So it's like a guideline for you. It might be helpful in your life, to be honest. It's not only related to the technology. This is like a useful link that you can use it. So this is a time for answer your question. I'm just trying to keep myself with time because now it's 8:40 minutes. So this is a time for your question, for answering your question. First of all, thank you for listening to me, and hopefully I give you some useful information today. So I will switch and return back to the chat to see your question. So how I can see the chats. It's really important. Uh-huh. So I see all of the so the voice is not clear, so it's not clear. Voice. We do not have a question. We do not have a question. We do not have a question. Is there any chance to get the resources? Definitely, I will put the resources, and you'll find the links inside itself. You can return back to it, and I will share some useful links to you guys. And before going, there is a good book called Universal Methods of Design, and it contains around 100 way actually. You will find image boards, how to design do exploratory research, you can do design workshop. It's different activities inside this one, and really you can use it with your children at home or something like this, because we will stay at home for a long time. This duration seems this. So this kind of activity you can actually play with your kids or something like this, to be honest. And definitely sprint. I never forget to bring my stuff with me while I'm running design sprint. This puts a lot of fun in during the design sprint. And there is what's called, I reached that live comment. Thank you, Abdurrahman. I have reached it. Thank you. Or someone saying the presentation slide have been requested, might be because the people, yeah, do you know, every day we have a lot of sessions, so the people couldn't manage to send it to you. But you can reach me via LinkedIn. I can share it whatever you want, and I see people answer you. Um, okay, thank you. How I can start in design thinking as a fresh graduate? To be honest, you can start design thinking, but by reading, there is what's called a very excellent book for you. It's called Design for Life. So you can use it, and you can follow me at LinkedIn. I'm running design thinking session now for teenage and for kids, how they can start and embed design thinking in their life actually. Can use AI or machine learning in cloud computing application? I'm sorry, might be I didn't get your question, but if you can rephrase it or you can share it with me in LinkedIn to get it, I will appreciate it. Layla, yeah, you will find my how I can put. I'm feeling stupid when I'm using this application. So if I'm gonna to put it here, it's Asma Dash Ibrahim. You can just put Asma Dash Ibrahim at LinkedIn. You'll find my profile. So if you have any question, just drop it to me and I will answer it as much as I can. You will find all the resources inside the presentation itself. I will consider myself I have done for today. Thank you everyone for listening to me. And Jazakumullah khairan, Abdurrahman. There is managing something like this. Thank you again. Um, I will close it if there is no any question now. Thank you.